right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Absolutely Unnecessary podcast. Today I'm joined, as usual, by Simon, but also esteemed Commonwealth Games wrestling coach, Connor.
And previous Commonwealth Games athlete.
And yes, previous Commonwealth Games athlete. Can't forget that. So, fresh off...
But not Olympic, as
not
according
Olympic,
to
definitely
Zach.
not, yeah.
Never, so you never made the Olympics?
Still time, but not yet.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Love the optimism.
And that was just because we're discussing our number one ticket holder on the podcast, Zach. And he's like, what exactly happened in that exchange, Connor?
I can't remember like word for word, but Zach questioned technique that was shown. And he's like, "Oh, I saw online you can do X, Y, Z," and that was coming from an Olympian as opposed to you being like a Commonwealth Games athlete. So like, thanks very much, man. Like
just the Com Games,
Yeah.
Just fuck the Com Games. That's good. So, how was
We
it?
still love you, Zach.
Yeah. What was the experience like as a coach as opposed to being an athlete?
stressful. I think stressful because like the two guys that won the bronze medals, so Jaden and Tom, I'm really good mates with them, like off the mat. So like knowing how much it meant kind of for wrestling in Australia and for them as people, like it was pretty nerve wracking. But when they won it, it was awesome. Like one of the best feelings I've ever had. Especially knowing like with Jaden, he's gone through a lot, like in the previous Com Games cycles. So for him to win a medal and just get reward for effort, like it was awesome to see.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was a good experience. First time coaching on the international stage, so brand new for me. Think I done pretty well. Might have put a few stupid faces on TV that I got screenshots of, but yeah,
Don't know what to
pretty
work
happy.
with you.
Nah, definitely not.
It was like for the amount of people that do the sport, like wrestlers are known as just having the wildest coaches, like most animated coaches and stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, I guess like the main ones people are like America and Russia, and like a lot of them are cockheads. Like they
Yeah.
just like beat the shit out of their athletes, and it's like, nah, you can't
Yeah.
be doing that. But I think me personally as a coach, like I'm pretty subdued until it comes to the comp, and then I'll like scream and shout and try and get the best out of everyone.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You watch when you watch videos of like the college wrestling and the Olympic Games trials and things like that you see in the US, the coaches are just nuts.
Yeah.
Like they are yelling, they're screaming, they're carrying on. Which is like you don't see that as often in other sports.
Yeah, I think it's weird because like a lot of American wrestlers, like they're the jocks that like they think they're the tough guys and whatever, and I think the coaches try and match that, if that makes sense.
That was probably them when they were in high school.
legitimately. Like
Yeah.
as I say, like, it's not my kind of style of coaching, but I can see why it's like part of their culture over there. It's just
Yeah. So those boys who you had there, were they expected to medal? Were they underdogs? Were they?
So the Com Games is a weird one. Like it's kind of really hit and miss, and it all depends on your draw. So India's the best team by far. So they'd be like a top 5 wrestling country in the world. Like they got a couple of world and Olympic champions.
They got like 9 or 10 of the gold medals or something.
Yeah. Like they kill it every time the Com Games comes around. And then you got likes of Canada and Nigeria who wouldn't be in the top 10, but they're not terrible either. And then you got pretty much everyone else. It's a bit of a mixed bag. So like for Australia, we do well when we win medals because we're, as a country and as a sport, we're quite underfunded, and like we don't have the resources that say India has, where you got like 1 billion people, where you can find like 2 or 3 just genetic freaks that you can run into the ground and they'll just get back up and like give you the same effort the next day.
Yeah.
So like when you got a population that size, it's quite easy to kind of pick and choose who you're going to have. And as well as that, for them, it's like a way out of poverty. So like you say to them, oh, look, if you want to go medal, here's like a couple of $1 million. We'll put your family through college. We'll give you a house, all that sort of crap. So when you look at it like that, they've got hundreds and hundreds of people that they can use as a training resource. Whereas like in Australia, the top 5 guys maybe have to get together and do a training camp for 3 months because it's the only training we can actually get here.
Mm. Yep. That's interesting. The wrestling. Just out of curiosity, if you took like all the guys from Absolute that you wrestle with, include jiu-jitsu guys, MMA guys, everyone, give us your top 5 in order wrestlers from Absolute.
From Absolute, first would have to be Joey. Joey's done a fair bit of wrestling, and he learned from my coach, who's probably the best coach in Australia.
Yep.
That's Costa.
Costa, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, like probably was close to like 10 years ago. I started training with Joey at the other gym. So while I was preparing for like world championships, Commonwealth games, like all that sort of stuff, Joey was my main training partner. So like he just kind of leveled up because he was getting good coaching and good training at the same time. Can't look past Lockie either. He won nationals at 79 a couple of years back. Same as jiu-jitsu, like really methodical, does all the right things in the lead up to it. So like, again, I can't go past him. And for pretty much the same reason as Joey, when I was like getting ready for Com Games, Olympic trials, world championships, I was training a lot with Lockie because he was preparing for ADCC. So again, his wrestling kind of came up a fair bit as well.
Yep.
Just try to think. Like,
there's a guy out there doing wrestling seminars at the moment on a tour, Bobby. Just surprised his name hasn't come up. Yeah, I'm serious.
I saw that.
Wait, who?
Bobby
Shandu.
Bobby Sandu.
Yeah.
At
wrestling.
Out selling seminars for
wrestling and leg locks.
Wrestling.
Oh, is it a bit more like the wrestling up from the ground, like the jiu-jitsu style of like getting up to a single from like a leg lock entanglements and stuff.
He tried to sell us a seminar here. He wanted to come back and do a seminar on Absolute.
Bobby.
Love the pictures that are coming up for the wrestling. I don't think you're going to find anything.
There you go.
Bobby versus Barack.
Yeah, let's not put that on for Bobby's sake.
Did Barack give him a tap?
I think he'd duck,
Yeah.
Actually, to be fair as well, like I haven't trained him for a while, but watching him at the ADCC trial, Isaac, his wrestling is improved like outside.
Yeah.
He was ridiculous.
Yeah, Sam speaks really highly of his wrestling.
So does Craig now. Well, Craig just said he's...
I was really shocked when I saw it. Like the techniques he's hitting are like really quite high level, and he's hitting them really, really well as well.
Yeah, beautiful.
Like, I was really surprised when I saw him.
Yep.
How do you get? Have you wrestled with Larry?
Wrestled or just tried to stay on my feet?
Yeah.
Nah, he's Larry actually, like his techniques are pretty good.
Yeah.
Like for a big dude, he moves really, really well when he wrestles.
Super athletic.
Yeah. And I always struggle to take him down. Like when there's that kind of size, it's always like really, really hard to take something.
Yeah, for sure.
Power to weight. If you evened out bring Simon down to 80 kilos, take me up to 80 kilos. Who's a better wrestler?
Honestly,
honest answer.
I'd have to go with Jack.
Yeah. Love that.
I've seen him have a couple of inside trips.
He set up this whole who's the top 5. He hadn't heard his name in the top 5.
I did.
That's all
until
he
you
wanted.
said Isaac, I wanted 3. I did. If I had to write the same list, I would have said Joey.
I actually would have
Lockie,
put you up
me.
there, yeah.
Yeah, I would have put myself at number 3.
Considering you
Adjusting for weight is just bullshit. Like it's
Pound
like,
for pound. Pound for pound.
Let's compare our wrestling results, which are both never zero results.
Wait, you were in Mongolian. Mongolian.
Number one Australian Mongolian Balak wrestling.
Yeah.
Actually, I have competed on the international stage.
Yeah.
I think to round out that list, Dylan and Sam would be up there as well. Like their wrestling's not too bad.
You mean Joey from Wish.com?
Pretty much, yeah.
Now I'm insulted that he's dropping their names. And not
Yeah,
mine.
that is disrespect.
Yeah.
Jackson, then Sam and Dylan.
I get to maul him in
Actually,
sparring.
Sam had above Sam and Dylan.
You reckon? Nah, I don't reckon. He's not bad. Like he's not terrible, but like I reckon Sam and Dylan are probably better wrestlers.
I don't know.
You'll probably take
It's
my head
hard
off the next time.
hard when you're punching down. It's all the same, isn't it?
That's everyone that ever spars you. Anyway, all right, let's get back to rather than Jack's weird question about the top 5 people at Absolute, just trying to set up for compliments.
Good question.
Let's
That's a
talk
good
more
question.
about your,
I can see the graphic already, just popping up like a name, a little photo next to their head.
Never felt so put on the spot before.
Anyway, so so tell us more about the Com Games, so the lead up. So how you were sort of Matt side for all the?
Nah, we kind of split it half. So the other coach, Carissa, she initially was there as the female head coach, and then got made the national coach kind of on short notice. So she took the 2 girls that were there, and her brother was also wrestling. So like it made sense for her to take the 2 girls plus her brother.
Yep.
She knows them better than I do.
Yep.
I took Jaden, Tom, and Mustafa, who was our 65 kilo guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, like we kind of split the load 50-50, but like for every single match, we always had 2 in the corner anyway. So like, both of us like had input at different points in every match, so it worked pretty well together.
Yeah. So you got 100% of the medals were theoretically under your tutelage. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, fair enough.
To be fair, like when we saw the draws, I was pretty certain that they were going to get medals. Like it was just a matter of which color it was going to be.
Yeah.
Take nothing away, like they both wrestled really well for them. But yeah, like Tom especially, we knew the outcome of the South Africa match. It was either going to be he wins that and he's in the final, or he's 100% taking the bronze medal.
Yep.
Jaden had a few harder matches, but Jaden's by far the best wrestler in Australia. He's really, really good. So he done his LCL in his second match, which was the only match that he lost. And
who did he lose to?
Pakistan.
Okay.
So
yeah, Pakistan had some decent.
Yeah, they're pretty good as well. So the Pakistani at his weight was the previous Commonwealth Games champion.
Yep.
So Jaden actually wrestled him in the last Commonwealth Games and almost beat him. But there's a lot of circumstances outside of the wrestling that kind of affected how he wrestled last time.
Yep.
So like this time it was kind of his chance to get back and prove that he could beat him. And then I'd say done his LCL in like the second minute of the match.
Yep.
And then went out, got it strapped, and won another 2 after that to win his bronze medal. So
it's pretty good.
Yeah. It again, like as a bit of a blessing in disguise, like Jaden's probably like pissed off that he's in a like a full leg cast right now, but just because he kind of fought through and like it's a good story. We got a lot of attention to like 7 News, Fox Sports, and all that sort of stuff. So it brings a lot of good publicity for wrestling that we don't normally get. So like that for us in terms of like sponsorship and advertising and marketing is huge.
Because it's been a couple of Com Games since you've got a medal in
12
wrestling.
years, yeah.
Yeah.
So to kind of put it in context, the last Com Games, I was the only one that made a medal match.
Yep.
This Com Games we had 4 people fighting for bronze and 2 won it. So like it's a huge improvement on where we were at this time. Last time around.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And so for you personally, I know we touched on it earlier that you're sort of coaching now, but you said you haven't made a team yet. So where does your career path lie now going forward? Because I know you're dabbling in MMA, you're still doing the wrestling. What's plans for you going forward?
So my neck's a bit injured right now. So once I can get my neck back to kind of full strength, I'll look at competing again. But it just depends how long the rehab takes. I don't want to rush the rehab and like destroy my neck for like long term. So if I can get back in time, I'd like to have another crack at making the next Olympics. Like I think I'm capable of it. And once I'm fully fit, like I give myself a good chance.
Yeah. And Olympic quals, for those who don't know, it's just top 16 in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's no like, you can't be the best guy in Australia, but be 50th in the world and get in.
Yeah, kind of. So it gets split into continental qualifiers as well. So we go top 6 from the Worlds the year before.
Yep.
And then each continent gets 2 extra spots. So if you finish top 2 in your continental qualifiers, you go there. So it used to be quite easy through Australia because all you had to do was win Oceania. And that's like, if you beat New Zealand, pretty much, you make the Olympics.
Right.
But then they coupled us in with Africa because we were getting too many guys that were just not at the level to compete at the Olympics, just pretty much getting a walkover and then jumping in and getting smashed first round.
Yep.
So now we have to qualify through Africa. So they combined Africa and Oceania. So you have to be the top 2 over 2 continents. Outside of that, there's 2 second chance qualifiers. I think they've taken it now down to 1 spot for each of the second chance qualifiers. So that's like the best of the rest will go there. So like they're really, really outside the world championships, they're the hardest competitions to win because you got like, say like anyone that didn't make top 5 in the worlds that could medal at worlds are going to be those second chance qualifiers. Right. So like it's at the Olympics to qualify through wrestling, like you have to be a good wrestler. There's no kind of easy way to kind of skate through it. It's like if you make the Olympics, you completely deserve to be there. Yeah. Whereas not to knock it, but like if you go to Com Games, you just have to win nationals. So like if we get allocated 6 spots, you have to win nationals, then you have to prove that you're better than anyone else that can't fill out those divisions. That's
right.
Pretty much it.
Interesting how it works.
So there was only 6 spots for wrestling?
Yeah, we got 6. So the way it works for Commonwealth Games, the Commonwealth Games Australia gets allocated X amount of spots, and then they decide how many spots go to each team. So for wrestling, we had 12 divisions that you could contest, but Com Games only gave us 6 spots. So 6 people that qualified for the Com Games didn't go. Just based
that's
on
the hard decision part.
Yeah,
isn't it? So
that sucks. Like you know what I mean? Like it must be pretty shit. Like putting in the work, winning the nationals, proving you're the best in the country, and then losing out because like pound for pound, you're not in the top 6.
And how do they decide on that? Like what
there's a lot of factors. It's quite like an in-depth like analysis of like how they think they'll go. So your first criteria is medal potential. So if you if you're smashing it in Australia, but you got like a really strong division in the Commonwealth Games, like that might knock you back a few places, even though, but like pound for pound, you could be the best wrestler in Australia.
Really?
Yeah.
So because you don't have the best chance.
Yeah.
Like maybe some of the lighter weight female divisions, for example, might not
exactly.
have as much.
Yeah.
And if you're like
bullshit.
76 kilo male, it's very
stacked,
competitive. Division. Yeah.
So like I think the team that we sent this year was probably the strongest team we could have sent. Like, so I don't have any complaints with the selection. Like, you probably could have swapped out one or two, and it would have been relatively the same outcome. So again, I'm not too like one way or the other. I was happy how that team kind of worked itself out.
Yeah. Yep.
Again, it doesn't always work out perfectly like that, but at the end of the day, based on funding, we need to try and get as many medals as we can to secure funding, and then hopefully try and improve for next time.
Yeah. So they'd be very happy with that as a result for funding wise.
Yeah, definitely. I was really happy with it.
Yeah. No. Awesome.
Who, just more of a wrestling thing. Who from that's coming
Who's
off
better than me?
What would you rate my wrestling out of 10? Who that's coming up from like the moving out of the wrestling scene recently into MMA? So you got like Kyle Dake, Pat Downey, Aaron Pico's been in MMA for a while, but guys like that, who do you see as being sort of that next wave wrestler who we end up with like a DC type pedigree or anything like that?
It's hard to say. That there's an Uzbekistani wrestler who's pretty good. His last name's Abdurakhmanov. So like is that not related to that Shavkat Rakhmanov? Is he?
No
idea. Honestly,
no, he's the one who is like 16-0 in the UFC, 16-0 welterweight, and they were saying he's better than Hamzat.
Yeah, I don't know.
Honestly, not sure. Yeah,
I didn't know the first name, to be honest.
Shavkat. You want to pull that up for us, Josh?
Yeah, I was
Shavkat.
that because I didn't know how to spell that.
Shavkat Rakhmanov.
So the guy that I'm talking about, he's won medals at the Olympics. He beat Jordan Burroughs in 2016 at the Olympics.
Did he really?
Like,
wow,
pretty good
so
wrestler.
Really good, yeah.
And he's the coach at Harvard for their wrestling as well. So he's done like a fair amount of like boxing and striking with the Harvard, like all those boys.
Right.
But his wrestling's very, very good.
Yeah, right. See, this is that Shavkat bloke.
Oh, actually, I've seen him. Yeah. I don't think they're related, but
So what's the other guy's first name?
I can't even remember now.
And do you see Bo Nickel was on Contender Series this week?
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Bo Nickel was on Contender Series, and it's hard. I didn't understand what happened, right? So, he was 1-0, gets a shot on Contender Series because of who he is, goes in and smokes the guy, takes him down, takes his back, chokes him in 1 minute, and Dana White at the end of the show goes, yeah, he's only 2-0, so I'm not going to give him a contract. He's got to come back and do it again. And it was like, well, why'd you put him on anyway?
Yeah, like, what could you do that's more impressive?
Yeah, what could you do?
Speaking of wrestlers that came across, there was actually an Egyptian dude that that's not really much help, but I think if you bring up the UFC cards, it was like an Egyptian heavyweight, and I think he'd medalled for Greco
In the Olympics?
at the Olympics.
Does he have bald heads? Yeah, he was really good actually.
He actually looked really good striking wise as well. Go back to
I know who you're talking about, so I can't remember his name though. Because I think he won in 2004. It was
actually
At
go to
Sydney.
the Aspinall card.
Sydney's
Athens
2000,
was, yeah.
Athens 2004, that's right.
I can't remember which. Actually, I think it was this card.
I know exactly who you're talking about. I just can't remember the guy's name.
So you go to the prelim card.
Prelims.
It was because his debut fight in the UFC, and it was a heavyweight. Okay. Maybe
not.
try the 277 and see the prelim card. Actually, this was definitely it. Hamdi.
Hamdi Abdel Wahab.
Oh, that's not who I was thinking of.
Hamdi Abdel Wahab.
The Egyptian hammer. Yeah.
Nice.
Egyptian Greco
So-
wrestlers are really good. Like,
And I think he won African freestyle, but he was throwing heat with his hands. Like,
Really?
I was like really impressed by him for a debut.
actually, I've never seen him before.
First,
Yeah, right. There you go.
I don't know, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if you want to check his wrestling pedigree, but if
I assume if he's been in the Olympics, he's a good wrestler.
I think he'd been a couple of times former Greco-Roman
Yeah.
Olympic wrestler. Son, Anyway, I think he'd medaled and he'd won African nationals
Yeah.
a few times, and I think he'd medaled at Worlds or something.
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. So he'd really good.
if you're winning Greco nationals in Egypt, you're a good wrestler. Like their Greco is very, very good.
That's just him in bare knuckle boxing as well. Like
he
was he was giving up a lot of size to the other, and he was pretty impressive.
Giving him a wallop.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Anyway.
Yeah, because I always find it interesting because you just don't see as a high percentage translation to MMA with any other sport as you do with the wrestling. Like obviously you have guys like Adesanya and that, but I think they're more like the exception. Like you've got other really high level strikers who have come across and they just don't cut it. Even their striking changes so much with the way it moves. But then like the last big one was obviously Pico.
Yeah.
And he's starting to find his feet now, but he didn't live up to his expectations. Because remember, when he came across, he was a Golden Gloves amateur boxing champion in the US.
And he won worlds.
For wrestling. And when Floyd Mayweather was fighting Miguel Cotto, Freddie Roach brought him in to be Miguel Cotto's sparring partner. And like 6 weeks out from the fight or something, Freddie Roach he was 16. Yeah. And Freddie Roach stopped letting him spar him because he was just handing it to this guy who was about to fight Floyd Mayweather.
Well, he won Golden Gloves when he was real young, didn't he?
Yeah, he's a freak boxer, and a freak wrestler, obviously. Yeah. So when he went to MMA, I think he signed a 6-figure deal with Bellator per fight before he'd ever had an MMA fight.
Because he got knocked out pretty badly though, didn't he?
He's been knocked out badly twice now. Yeah, really badly. And he lost his first fight. Shot for a double and got guillotined. But since then, like he's just had some huge knockouts and stuff. Be interesting to see whether he moves over to the UFC eventually.
I always find it interesting with wrestling because like a lot of the bigger wrestlers that have done well in MMA are American, obviously, so they come through the collegiate system. I reckon folk style is better for MMA than like the freestyle or Greco.
Definitely.
I think that's probably why you don't see that many international wrestlers like doing so well in the UFC. Obviously, you got people like Romero, who's just a freak. He's just a freak athlete.
But even you look at Romero, he didn't necessarily get to where he got with good wrestling,
exactly.
Did he? Like it was the fact he could take you down. Yeah. But the main thing he got with his wrestling was the overhook inside trips. Right. Yeah. So it was
even if you look at the Rob Whittaker fights, when they fought, like Romero couldn't take him down, but if you put him on a wrestling mat, like Romero destroys Rob every time.
100%.
It's not even a question of it. But like as I say, I think definitely in terms of like getting off the ground, so if you could take him down, folk style is definitely better because like they get ride time and it's like they put the emphasis on the guy getting up off the ground.
Yep.
Whereas in freestyle, because there's no chokes or submissions, if you get taken down, your opponent's got 10 seconds to turn you or they get stood back up. So we're happy to just give her back.
Yeah.
Like
just hit the deck.
Pretty much.
I mean, but Yoel Romero also, because he was never worried about being taken down, would just throw everything into every shot. That's the one thing that wrestling gives you as well. Like you'll see a guy that is theoretically the better striker versus the better wrestler, but the wrestler will just let everything go.
Yeah.
Because
it's a pretty crazy story, like hearing when he talks about in Cuba how they were at the wrestling school and it's like the kids who do well get given more food. Yeah. And if you go and shit, you get given like half a bowl of food. But if you go good in training that day, you get a full bowl of food. Fucking wild.
I've trained with like the Cuban national team a few times and they're just animals. Like technically not the best wrestlers, but they just like anytime you wrestle them, like they give them nothing. It's just like you know it's gonna be a shit match if you're sparring with them.
Do you find Russians the best technically?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like without a doubt. Like it's always been like Russia and America's top two, or for the last 10 years at least it has been. And the one time America won it, like it's not even necessarily the better wrestlers, it's just like physically stronger. But if you want to learn proper wrestling, like you watch the Russians.
Yeah. So for if we're talking, because most of our people are going to be jiu-jitsu people or MMA. For let's say jiu-jitsu, what's their number like one or two things that you could translate from wrestling that you could add to your jiu-jitsu that would make you a better jiu-jitsu athlete? Honestly,
I reckon like a solid double leg. It's one of the worst things that I see done in jiu-jitsu purely because people are worried about guillotines.
Yep.
But if you finish your double legs properly, I think it's really, really difficult to get guillotined. Like the way I try and finish it, like I always try and land side control. And if you do proper technique, like there's a good chance you get side control. So like even if they do have a guillotine on, you'd probably will get free relatively easily.
Yeah.
I think top pressure as well. Like if you've got someone, like if you're in close guard or whatever and you're on top, like even against better dudes, like when I've fallen into traps, like I'll get submitted sometimes, but I find like it's quite hard for people to sweep me, even though my jiu-jitsu is shit. Like I've always found, like, as I say, I can stay on top pretty well. It's just like I get subbed 1-1 top, which is hard for me.
Right. There you go. Interesting. I wouldn't have thought double leg would have been the one, but that's an interesting take.
It gets butchered in the way it gets taught a lot by jiu-jitsu coaches teaching.
100%.
Like,
But I can't remember, it might have been Lockie that was showing me, but the stats for like one of the last ADCCs, the main takedown that scored points was double leg.
Yeah.
So like people do go to it a lot, and I say if you do it properly, I reckon it's pretty safe. It's just people, like Simon says, butcher it, and then that's when they end up getting caught.
on MMA, looking at the UFC takedown stats, I think over 60% of all takedowns were double legs.
Yeah.
So, and it's like it's like 60% double and then 30% single.
Yeah.
When you flip that around, and I was looking at like collegiate wrestling stats, I'm pretty sure it's about flip that single leg's the dominant takedown in wrestling. Like it's far more common than double leg.
I think for collegiate it would be single leg, but I think freestyle's probably double leg still.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just interesting looking at the different breakdowns. And it's a very long, like, you know, you've got inside-outside trips and a few other things. And then by the time you get to like the sixth most popular takedown, like, well, popular is probably not the right, common takedown, it tails off very quickly. Yeah. Anyway, should we talk? We probably could cover the Hex results.
Yeah, for sure.
Russians wrestling reminded me of Hex, but anyway.
I just realised what you were talking about.
What's that, sorry?
I just realised.
Anyway, so we had three. It was actually like a fairly good card in the end. Obviously, a lot of controversy with the whole JJ Abel Bright thing falling over with Abel doing the no-show at Wayne's, which was pretty disappointing, I suppose, for Hex and for JJ.
For sure. Real out of character for Abel too. Like I just think
I think it was obviously well overweight and struggling, whatever. But
it's disappointing, but it is what it is, I suppose. Yeah. I thought, given the shit that got thrown at him, and you know everything going on, Hex put on a great show. Like
they
it
did.
was, and it actually, in all honesty, my expectations of Hex have declined since when I fought for them years ago, and so I went in expecting sort of that when we were there, but it was a great show. It seemed like they've kind of got back to their old ways with great production quality, smoothly ran, good crowd numbers, good fights on. So whatever Hex did for this show, keep that up.
And they got a lot of there was a lot of barriers too. Like, you know, they went through a lot. Like, I mean, the three that we had lost opponents, had opponents, got them. I mean, both, well, not both, all Sem, Sarmad, and Josh all only basically got their opponents finalised on fight week. So and they were chasing international guys for them, and then they had like the guys from Guam come and one opponent not come in, and the other one comes 3 kilos over. So they had a pretty rough trot, but did well to still keep all the fights together on the card. So hats off them for going that extra mile. It'd be easy for them to have thrown this one in. To be perfectly honest.
Definitely.
Especially the one like them chasing. I mean, I believe, you know, like good work on Hoshi for stepping up to fight JJ, but I believe there was a very large financial incentive for him to do so, which they didn't need to do for like an out-of-town guy that wasn't sort of selling. So that was pretty good for them to do.
So we had Sem up first, and Sem looked, as he looked better every fight. He looks more calm. He looks more collected. He picks his shots well. He knows when to go, when to take a step back. And, you know, he's doing all the right things to put himself in a position to be, you know, in that top echelon of guys in the country in the next, you know, couple of months. So well done, Sem. Jeff Meeser and Josh Riley. It's a good fight. Josh just had the found a home for the right hand. I mean, for his left hand, sorry. It was southpaw versus southpaw, and Jeff couldn't find an answer. But, you know, hopefully we see Jeff back again. He's a good dude. I really like him.
Yeah.
Josh, I thought Josh performed like really well for what he does. The way he mixes his Muay Thai and his wrestling is really unique. Yeah. I don't think you find somebody with that stance. Like usually the striker that works their wrestling in has that really low stance and they're sort of the boxing into the wrestling, where he's almost opposite. He stands up really tall, almost inviting the grapple, and then all of a sudden he drops down underneath on you, which is so unique. So
and he also uses his elbow as well to sort of get to the clinch now. So
for sure. So really impressed with Josh.
He just needs that finishing power a little bit more, both in his submission threats and power. He needs to hit the gym a little bit.
Yeah, he won all 3 rounds. But
As
if
he
you
did
could,
against like Alex. Ramon.
if you could find an area to work on or a criticism, you would definitely say that.
Yeah. That next level of threat on the ground, like he's so controlling, really good.
Yep.
But that next level of trying to finish it, even when he sort of starts to go to the back and it's almost there, then he's like, well, I might get up, and then you see him come back and re-ground him. Right?
Yeah. And then Samad, who since he joined the team has been nothing but good value add for the team. He shows up. He's always late every Tuesday and Thursday morning to training. But if you can look past that, he's a hard worker, really good teammate, really good culturally, and
got a good rear naked, putting Joey and
Dylan
to sleep with it.
And then he had a really, really good performance.
I've coached Samad for about 3.5 years now. I don't think I've ever seen one time, like once.
You've never seen what?
I've never seen him make class one time.
Make class on time.
Yeah.
No, he's terrible. I want to put up a whiteboard that like the title is Days Since Samad Was Late. And like if we get him here on 1 and then Tuesday cross it out back to 0 because he's late again. And every time,
The last time he was late was when I kicked him out of the car park though, and you were like,
oh yeah,
yeah.
fucking Samad. Simon's like, to be fair, he was parking and I kicked him out of the car park.
It was like,
all right.
I was actually here on time, and I was like 2 minutes ago. I'm like, nah, I'm pulling rank. I'm going to be late to coach. He's like, but I'm on. And you could tell he was like, I'm on time, boys. Jackson, and then he walked in ran the park. Somebody else walked in late, and Jack was on him. Anyway.
My fault. Junior Tuffer versus Calvin Fidiel. That was a great fight.
Oh, it
was a great fight.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Calvin took a flush kick to the head. So he was on the ground and he went to stand up.
Got up.
And as he stood up, he just lifted his hand off. So he was still bent over, and Junior just left kicked him, and it hit him straight on the forehead. And I thought he's cracked his skull. I thought this is, and he gets up, sort of dizzy for 2 or 3 seconds, and then he's just back to swinging. And then he actually had Junior rocked for a little bit.
And then he got on top of him.
And then he got on top. He was trying to look for a submission. It was a wild fight.
Both times, it looked to me like, both times I'm like, oh, it's done.
Yeah.
I saw it go both ways. Like, And Calvin was a great dude. Talked to him out the back.
Yeah.
He's obviously he's fought Ben and all, but he's got wins over Roque Martinez.
Yeah.
No, I think did he go Ben and him go 1 for 1? I can't remember.
He beat Ben back in the day, and then Ben beat him in his fight before UFC.
Yeah, and
that was as good as Ben's ever looked. Ben never got that fit again, in my opinion. He was fit, focused, and he was doing really well. And then I think that if we had seen that Ben carry into the UFC, we would have seen much better results in the UFC. Like he was still obviously doing things. I just think his weight was good. He was fast. He was fit. He looked as good as he's ever looked against Calvin.
It's a huge step up for Justin in his second fight to fight someone of that caliber.
Junior.
Junior
For sure.
Yeah. But still, like I know.
The thing about being junior though is like, what is he, UFC now? Like you look
apparently
at it
he's got another match coming up.
Right. So maybe one more and then UFC.
Yeah,
it's
for
like,
sure.
So you've got to go pretty quick. JJ and Hoshi, we don't really need to talk about that one. JJ just went in and did what you would expect, took him down and did the work.
It's still like everyone gives props to Hoshi and rightly so for stepping up, but JJ going, I don't care that he's almost 90 kilos or props to JJ too, because you're like a guy. It's both you've lost your opponent and it takes balls for the guy to step in late. It's still also balls for the guys to go, okay, this guy's probably 2 weight classes heavier than me at the moment, and I know nothing about him. But
for sure. And everything that got thrown at him, I remember talking to him the next day and he's like, it is what it is. Yeah. I don't really care. Yeah. He's just you can see his record, he's 35-9. So he's had nearly 50 fights in MMA plus whatever else he's done. So to have that many fights, you don't get to that level.
There is rumours that he might be on standby for September. a card in September. I heard, I think, from Joey. You're giving me a puzzled look, but
A UFC card or
yeah.
a contender type thing?
No, I think I believe straight on.
Wow, that would be great. Good on him.
I mean, he's been on the Ultimate Fighter and he's been close, a few times. I think I was speaking to JJ and sort of said, "Have you ever got the co-op?" And he's like, JJ was pretty honest, and his self-appraised was like, "I've been right on the cusp a few times, had that sort of fight where I was going to get in, and then lost that one." So
Yep. Then we had Sangwon Kim, Nikos Trepka. Sangwon Kim, my old nemesis.
and you were trying to get yourself an invite to Korea to go fight him.
Yes, I was. I went out the back, said, "I come to Korea," and he was like, don't think he understood, so he brought his coach over. I said, "I come to Korea." He said, "Oh, very cold." I was like, okay. I was like, I don't think that they understand what I'm trying to say here. But Sangwon Kim, he's a really different fighter. Like the way he moves, this low kind of head movement, stands very wide, good right hand. But it was a close fight with Nikos.
I think the decision was right. Like
I
I
thought
thought he won the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, me too.
And probably Nico won the third. Well, I think that's what the judges gave. Actually, probably.
Yeah.
I don't obviously just looking at it 2 rounds to 1's what they all gave.
Yeah.
But and even the third was close. It was probably 2 close rounds to Sangwon Kim.
Yeah.
I'd say, and then Nico got the third. But it was a close fight.
Yeah, definitely close. And then we had Jabba and Jonathan.
Yeah, look, I won't say too much on.
Yeah, I
on-
won't say
like,
nothing about that
Yeah,
one.
I think there's some misunderstandings there.
Cool. What do we got coming up? Eternal.
I've actually got to, when we walk out of here, it's after 6, so we'll actually have to be, I've got to probably get down to sparring in a sec. But, so we got Eternal. I think we did have Grove on XFC, but that doesn't look like he's niggling shoulder, just pulled himself out of that. But, so I think we'll have you on Eternal. It looks like we'll have a few. I think Jasper's going to be on Eternal as well,
okay.
on the undercard. And,
Cool.
I think Mason's been offered something. Jack Lipper's been offered, so I'm just trying to get all those ones done. So.
Very nice.
And then
That'll be
obviously
good.
Rogue end of September, so we've still got. So it's not as busy schedule. I think we've had something every weekend nearly.
Yeah. I'll talk to you after.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
All
Eternal, so do you have to get out of here?
Yeah, I probably should run.
Cool.
So,
All right. Thanks for coming in, Connor.
yeah, thank you very much, Connor. It was great to.
That was good insight.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.